Welcome into the Locked On Knicks podcast following a brutal 111-107 loss for the New York Knicks at the hands of the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll get into Jalen Brunson's career night and take you through the errors down the stretch that doomed the Knicks in this one right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. And we want to thank you for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day. We're now available on all platforms, and that includes on YouTube. So if you haven't already, please go check us out on there and throw us a subscription while you're at it. What are you waiting for? It is just a massive help if you do. But who's begging you for subscriptions? I'm Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster. Typically, I'd be joined by Alex Wolf, but he is going to have you covered on Wednesday night. So just me to take you through the misery that was the end of this game that before all that misery was another fantastic effort for the Knicks as they look to cap off their 8-game winning streak and then 4-game losing streak with a 5-game winning streak and continuing. Unfortunately, that was not meant to be as the Bucks rained threes down on the Knicks throughout the fourth quarter. Ultimately, some clutch shot making from Jrue Holiday and a little bit of a disappearing act for the Knicks not named Jalen Brunson down the stretch on the offensive side of the floor, compounded with a myriad of defensive errors, made it impossible for the Knicks to ultimately win this one. I don't really know where to start in terms of where this all broke down for the Knicks. They led 70-53 and 76-60 in the third quarter. And that was despite a horrid start in terms of their shooting to this game. Julius Randle in particular just could not find the range. 0 for 8 from the field to start this game. Missed 8 3-pointers in the first quarter, which is an accomplishment that he got up 8 3-pointers in the first quarter, even for someone who has led the NBA in 3-point attempts over the last month plus. That was something to see. And yet it was 22-22 after one. And the Knicks very quickly got things together because Jalen Brunson was spectacular. And all of that compounded in a third quarter where, and most of the second quarter for that matter, Randle very much got it going, where Immanuel Quickley was absolutely scintillating. He had a quick 11 points in just over 6.5 minutes to start the second quarter. Perfect 5 for 5 shooting. And through that time, Brunson was toasting two of the best guard defenders in the NBA in Jrue Holiday and Javon Carter. So everything was good. Everything was right in Knicks land. And then slowly but surely, things deteriorated. Actually, you could take out the slowly caveat altogether because it wasn't very slow. The Bucks put together a 10-0 run over 1 minute and 41 seconds to wrap up the third quarter to turn 76-60 into 76-70. And then within 3 minutes of the start of the third quarter, they had their first lead of the second half on a Joe Ingles, very much healthy now. God bless him. Great Australian. Torturer of the Knicks tonight on a Joe Ingles 3 that made it 82-81. And that was the beginning of the end for the Knicks as and you can go on Twitter and our guy Prez put together a really spectacular thread on everything that went wrong for the Knicks defensively in the second half. But suffice it to say, it wasn't necessarily one culprit. It is easy and to some extent accurate to blame Evan Fournier, who fairly inexplicably played the first 7 minutes and I think it was 42 seconds of the fourth quarter over Quentin Grimes. That was a mistake, and perhaps the most egregious blunder of that stretch was Fournier with a foot in the paint, trying to help on Giannis, leaving Pat Connaughton open by about a mile in the corner to nail an open three. Fournier was also slow to get around to screen, trying to contest Joe Ingles, who nailed a right wing three earlier in the fourth quarter. But it wasn't just one guy. Jalen Brunson, who made mention of this in his post-game press conference, lost focus a couple of different times defensively. Julius Randle had a play where he just where Giannis fell to the ground and he just flat out didn't remember to box him out, which is tough when the guy is pretty much 7 feet tall, is nicknamed the Freak, and is probably the best basketball player on planet Earth still. Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid, Steph, all in that mix as well. Point being, you should probably box him out. And then Randle and Immanuel Quickley had a miscommunication on a pick and roll, where Randle, who I'm going to get to in just a couple of minutes here, and I want to commend for a by and large fantastic response to that horrific start shooting the basketball. Kind of fell back into his old bad habits, where he immediately turned and started yelling at Immanuel Quickley as if the call on the Giannis pick and roll was for Quickley to switch onto Giannis, which I don't think would have made a substantial difference from no one guarding Giannis at all. No shots at Immanuel Quickley, who is a fantastic defender when the guy he's trying to defend is not 7 feet tall and 250 pounds of pure muscle and force and heroes. It was all those things. And it was partially a scheme for Tom Thibodeau that when the Knicks were really struggling this year, it was easy to consistently see this. Always is going to prioritize protecting the paint over guarding on the perimeter. And throughout the first 3 quarters of this game, and especially the second and third, but screw it. The first 3 quarters of this game, the Knicks did such a good job of that, where they were consistently showing a second body towards Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I mean, the duo of Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle in particular were fantastic at this. At times, Mitch was the primary defender. At times, Julius was the primary defender. But they really flummoxed Giannis through 3 quarters, where he had a number of either turnovers or pretty badly missed layups that weren't particularly close to going in, trying to throw them up over the long arms of Mitch, or passes that were accurate and were the right play. But because the coverage was so good by the 2 bigs, the Knicks guards had time to recover out to the perimeter, had time to get good contests. And that really slowed the Bucks through 3 quarters of action. And then the execution was 20 to 30% less sharp throughout the fourth quarter. And Milwaukee had some great shot making. And then down like the final 3 minutes of this game, I actually thought the Knicks played decent defense. It was a lot of Drew Holiday, who got into foul trouble early. It was pretty cold through the first 2 quarters, through the 2 middle quarters of this game. He just started draining from the right wing. And look, there were differences the Knicks could have made. Like Grimes could have gotten around a couple of screens a little bit better. Like Mitchell Robinson at points was, kind of doing the same thing I just referenced, where he had 2 feet in the paint. And Brook Lopez, who's an excellent 3-point shooter for a big, was out on the arc, just bombing away and hit a big one. I think that was to make it 92-91. Maybe it was a little bit later than that. I don't quite remember. But the point is, against the best teams in the NBA, the margin for error is very, very slim. And Milwaukee has Giannis, who is just in a dramatically different echelon than anyone on the Knicks. They have Drew Holiday, who on the Bucks is obviously a second or third banana, but is very much the same tier of player as a Jalen Brunson or Julius Randle, and honestly probably slightly higher because of just how special he is defensively on top of what he brings offensively. Brook Lopez, an absolute 2-way monster. I personally think it is unbelievable how good that guy still is in his mid-30s, but he is a borderline deserving all-star this season. So even sans Chris Middleton, if you're the Knicks, like, you kind of have to play mistake-free basketball, especially when the jump shots were not falling in the first quarter. And then you could look at the offense down the stretch of the fourth, and there were a number of compounding issues there as well. And I want to get into those in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. But before I do that, there's one very important thing I have to do, and that is to tell you all about PrizePicks. Tonight, or I guess not tonight, I guess Wednesday night when the Knicks next play, I am going to take Jalen Brunson over 26.5 points. That one feels easy the way he's cooking right now. I'm going to take Immanuel Quickley over 3.5 assists. I am going to take Julius Randle to have over 12 rebounds, and I'm going to take Quentin Grimes to make under 3-pointers for that one. So how does PrizePicks work? All you have to do is pick 2 to 6 players, and if they go score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people, just you versus the projections available. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport you watch. That includes the NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, Euro basketball, cricket, and a whole lot more. They also offer safe and fast withdrawals, and they're currently operational in over 30 states in Canada. The best part, entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. So download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. So don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON to sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. And today's episode, oh my God, am I excited to say this, is brought to you by Madison Square Garden. Knicks action is heating up at MSG. Get tickets at Knicks.com/lockedon today. What's up, Knicks Nation? As the new year gets underway, now is the time to start planning your visit to the Mecca of basketball, Madison Square Garden. Start your new year strong with Knicks basketball. And man, do they have some big games this month. Donovan Mitchell and the Cleveland Cavaliers roll into town. I think that is going to be, I know it's happened once already, but one of the better atmospheres at MSG all season long. The tension of watching the would-be Knick in the building, that's going to be fun. And then LeBron and the Lakers come to wrap up this month. And look, if you've ever been to a game in MSG, you know Knicks fans bring the passion. They bring a unique energy and make MSG the greatest home court advantage in the NBA. You need to be here to experience top-tier competition at the Mecca of basketball, Madison Square Garden. Get tickets at Knicks.com/lockedon today. All right, we are back on Locked On Knicks. Thank you once again for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day. And I want to get into, we talked through a lot of the defensive follies that hurt the New York Knicks in this one. I would also like to cover what went wrong offensively for the Knicks before we get into really bearing the lead here in some ways, Jalen Brunson's 44-point performance. But the Knicks were really hurt by Isaiah Hartenstein in this one. I mean, there's no other way to frame it. I absolutely love the guy, but in 10 minutes, he went 0 for 6 from the field, finished with a -3 net rating despite being on the floor for a decent chunk of the Knicks run that got them up by 16 points. But man, the guy just, this dude who had elite touch to start the season, right? We were talking about how he had Immanuel Quickley levels of guarantees on his floater game. And now he cannot buy a layup. And I don't know, maybe you guys have had a more confident basketball history than I have personally, but I can empathize with Isaiah, right? I've had stretches in my playing career where I just, my playing career, quote unquote, intramural basketball, all right? Just chill out. Where I couldn't make a layup and it just gets in your head and it sucks. But obviously that's a little less acceptable when you're in the NBA and you're getting paid $8 million a year. And it was just one of those things where you could look at those layups by Hartenstein. You could look at all the 3-pointers Julius missed in the first quarter. You could also look at some of the short roll opportunities Julius had. And again, this was a spectacular game for him, but there's no other way to say it. He played scared offensively in the final 4 minutes of this one. I mean, had one short roll where Brunson was doubled and if I'm remembering correctly, and swung it to him at the foul line, and he had just a wide open jumper, and instead took it in on Brook Lopez, trying to get off a jump pass to Mr. Robinson, and Lopez just read it pretty easily because it was so obvious that Randle had predetermined where he was going with the basketball, stole it away. And then Julius had, again, about a 6-foot jumper wide open, a shot that he consistently hits as a fadeaway. And again, just kind of went right into the body of Lopez. This time did draw the foul, did hit 2 free throws, but it was kind of a lucky bailout. And I think Julius is just going to have to be able to, I mean, if no one steps up, he's going to have to take that shot confidently. And I know the sensation there as a player is, oh boy, it's going to look really bad if I miss this. I'm wide open. Let me just go all the way to the rim and see what happens. But he's got to shoot those shots. But someone who is not a problem offensively down the stretch, was not a problem in any way, was Jalen Brunson, a career high 44-point night. Also had 7 rebounds, which I believe Breen mentioned was his high as a Knick so far. Also had 4 assists, just 3 turnovers, 15 for 30 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3-point range, 10 for 10 from the foul line. Man, what more is to say? What more is there to say about Jalen Brunson? Just got the Knicks going early when they were desperate. This was a team that was down 10-2, and the only 2 points came off Brunson drawing a foul for 2 free throws. You could imagine a world where the Bucks just ran away with this one in the first quarter, and instead Brunson went to work. A little pump fake to get Drew Holiday up in the air, nailed a jumper, plus the foul for the Knicks' first bucket. Ended up getting 3 fouls on Holiday in the first 5 minutes, which was significant. And then Javon Carter comes in, another absolutely elite point of attack defender, and Brunson just started to torture him. Hitting 2 pull-up threes in the first quarter. And if you remember, early in the season, I was mentioning that was maybe not a point of frustration for Brunson, but something I was really focused on him improving on, because he seemed reticent to shoot pull-ups early in the season and just could not buy a bucket on them. And that carried over from what we knew of him as a Maverick, and was one of my main concerns in terms of Brunson's scoring, and even more so than his pure points per game, his efficiency translating over to the Knicks. And that was his ability, or lack thereof, to hit self-created threes versus the ones he was spoon-fed by Luka Doncic. Suffice it to say that is no longer a problem for him. A great stat from a friend of the pod, Benji Ritholtz. He tweeted out this morning, going to tonight's game. Last season, Brunson took 80 pull-up threes total and shot 31% on them. This season, coming into tonight's game, he had taken 88 and was shooting 44%. So he's just turned himself into a dramatically better shooter. Clearly, that was an area of emphasis for him this offseason, and it has, I think, taken his game into new heights, because it is just another thing in the wide array of tricks, just about as deep of an offensive toolbox as any player has in the league. And that is just about the most important tool you can have as a point guard, that ability to hit a pull-up three. And Brunson is now very, very good at it. And then carrying it over into the second and third quarters, just master screen navigation. His ability to rise up for a jumper about a half beat off from when you think he's going up, and then the touch to just hit them over and over and over again. Had a running hook layup that, honestly, I thought was a lob. Mike Breen thought was a lob. Obi Toppin thought was a lob. That swished in, and then down the stretch was just dominant for the New York Knicks. I mean, this game would have been another Sixers scenario, so like what we had on Christmas Day, if not for Brunson's shot making. He had just great patient navigation around a Mitchell Robinson three. To give the Knicks the lead back, 94-92 with a couple minutes left. Then blew by Holiday, snaked it back, hit a floater going across his body inside the last 3 minutes. And then with about a minute left, had a little like DHO action with Mitchell Robinson that was similar to the first play the Knicks ran with him and Immanuel Quickley that got him to the foul line, where instead of a handoff, it was a toss, and that seemed to give him a little bit more momentum. That was with 42 seconds left, and also credit to Tom Thibodeau for that one, for drawing up a quick hitter. And I think a lot of it was simply because Brunson was cooking to such an extent, but the Knicks late game offense, even if it wasn't perfect, did seem more fluid than it typically is. And that was a good example where instead of just dribbling all the air out of the basketball, Tibbs said, hey, let's just go get a good shot as quickly as possible. And that was throw in, catch, toss back, layup, all in under 4 seconds. So that was great. And then the Knicks used Mitchell Robinson as a press break, immediately outletted to Brunson, and Brunson got a big layup inside the final minute for his last bucket. I don't know how much more I can say about the guy. He just a clinic, going back and forth with the greatest defensive guard alive in Drew Holiday. I mean, you listen to enough NBA podcasts, like particularly JJ Redick, like he'll ask all the best scorers in the league, all right, who's the toughest guy to score on? Who's the toughest guy to score on? And the answer you consistently get is Jalen Brunson. When we come back, I want to get into Julius Randle, because I've talked about the bad with him, and there was quite a bit of bad, but there was also a whole lot of good for the Knicks' presumptive all-star power forward. But before I do that, I gotta tell you all about BetOnline. One of our longest, one of our oldest, one of our favorite sponsors here on Locked On Knicks. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football, the college bowl season, to basketball and the World Cup. We've got it all at BetOnline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. What I go to BetOnline for most often is the latest NBA odds. Tomorrow night, Jazz, Cavs. Cavs are 3.5-point favorites in that one. I am going to take the Utah Jazz pulling an upset. I feel like they've been on a little bit of a downtrend of late. I just feel like they're due for a hot shooting night. So I'll go with the Jazz. Call it a gut feeling. Head to the website today if you want to join me, or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline. It's where the game starts. And finally, we wanted to remind you to go to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. That's right. I didn't say do your taxes. I said don't do your taxes. You heard me correctly. Meet with an expert who'll do them for you. TurboTax experts can relieve you from the stress of taxes and file for you, so you can do not taxes. Show your eyes things that are not taxes. Unpack a moving box of not taxes. Taste not taxes. Sing not taxes a lullaby. Hope not taxes sleeps through the night. Grab a saddle and ride not taxes into the sunset. With TurboTax, an expert will do your taxes from start to finish, ensuring your taxes are done right, guaranteed, so you can relax. Feels good to be done with your taxes, doesn't it? Come to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Visit TurboTax.com to learn more. Intuit TurboTax, full service products only. Video meetings while expert does your taxes required. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, and with that, guys, we are back one final time on Locked On Knicks. I want to get into the conundrum that was Julius Randle's night. As we told you, just a horrific start, right? 0 for 9 from the floor, 0 for 8 from 3, finished 1 for 12 from 3-point range. Maybe he was due for an off night. I know he had 2 games ago, but the guy has been shooting the lights out. Just 9 for 29 from the field in this game, but still finished with 25 points, 16 rebounds, and 5 assists. And man, until those final 4 minutes, I really thought this was the ultimate example of Julius's metamorphosis as both a player and in terms of his temperament and focus and competitive spirit on the court. Because early season Julius, last season Julius, first season with the Knicks Julius, that guy, when he started off 0 for 8 from 3, he would have checked out. He would have been spending his night playing absolutely no defense and screaming at everyone else around him as if his lack of effort was all about them. And that was not the guy we got tonight. He was about as good as you can be against Giannis Antetokounmpo, both as a primary defender and as a help defender through the first 3 quarters of this game. And the force he brought under the basket was inspiring to, I think, everyone else on this Knicks team, going up against a massive, vicious front line of Giannis and Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis, who is a tough dude in his own right. Julius finished this game with 7 offensive rebounds. We mentioned the 16 total boards, also had 5 assists and 2 steals, like other stats to just show you the overall impact on this one. But man, I thought more than anything else, his offensive rebounding is what really stood out to me, particularly in that third quarter. I think it changed the trajectory of the game and allowed the Knicks to gain some separation in this one. And he got the second half started off on a really good note, hitting his first and what was only his only 3 on the night. Had just like this crazy dribble sequence where he crossed Giannis to the ground and he ended up missing the dunk, but that play got me really excited. Had another one, heavy traffic, where he fought for, won an offensive rebound, and immediately found Immanuel Quickley for an open 3 to make it 73-58. And I don't know about you guys watching, that was the moment for me where I was like, all right, the Knicks are probably going to win this game. And then 2 possessions later, another offensive rebound and one in between. had a backdoor cut where Drew Holiday fell asleep and got a layup off of a nice dish from Brunson. Had another big tip in where Brunson was one-on-one with Holiday going up the court, and early season Randle, or last season Randle, he was staying parked on the other side of the court in that situation. Instead, just at the mere risk that Brunson could potentially miss, he out-hustled everyone on both teams, sprinted down the court, and got the tip in. And then one final great play, crossed up Giannis again, kind of knocked him down semi-legally with the shoulder, drew Brook Lopez, slipped it to Mitchell Robinson for the dunk. And then from there, last 4 minutes again, were a little less promising, but it was overall, I honestly, despite the poor shooting, despite the timid play late, I really cannot be mad at Julius Randle. This was a great night of play for him. I want to finish going rapid fire on the rest of the roster, and I'm going to start that off with Immanuel Quickley because he was excellent in this game. At 43 minutes, 9 for 14 from the floor, 3 for 6 from 3, 2 for 3 from the foul line. Didn't have an assist. That was the only blotch on a pretty spectacular night. 23 points, 4 rebounds, no turnovers. Just was clinical in this game. I mean, for someone who I think just I've said this before, but didn't really have a clear sense of what his role was on this team earlier this year. Was hesitant when he shouldn't have been, was aggressive when he shouldn't have been earlier this season, and it feels like everything is kind of aligned for him, harmonized, whatever metaphysical term you want to use. I think it is all applicable because he's playing just beautiful basketball right now. I mean, he hit a little baseline fader to open the second quarter. That might be a trick he's learned from Jalen Brunson. And then just the change of pace. I mean, he tortured Beauchamp. I can't remember his name, but the Bucks rookie Marjon Beauchamp multiple times. That was a total mismatch. I mean, even for a rookie who's supposed to be a good defender, had one where he paused, then accelerated, nailed an and one floater on him, and then I think like 2 possessions later, cross, stop, another short floater for the first 6 points of the second quarter. But then he was doing it to Drew Holiday too. He beat Drew on a closeout for a short runner. A little pump to ditch Grayson Allen and nail a 3. Got Drew Holiday with the same trick. Had multiple layups in transition. It was just a very complete game for him. And then Mitchell Robinson, I thought, was mostly great in this one. 37 minutes, only made 1 shot, but had 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. I've referenced it a couple times with Brunson, but he's just much more comfortable distributing the basketball, acting as a little bit of a hub. I mean, ironically, the role we were hoping that Isaiah Hartenstein would play this year. Obviously, Mitch isn't doing that. He's not like picking out cutters from the corner, but he's making simple, functional passes with a consistency and a quick processing to it that he's never really had throughout his career. And just time and time again was there in the right moments on Giannis. Quinn Grimes, wish we'd gotten to see him the whole fourth quarter. Played 34 minutes in this one. Rare night where I would have been okay with him going 42. Even though he shot pretty terribly, was 1 for 7, 0 for 3 from 3, but contributed in other areas, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, had a great strip on Giannis to open the game. And the 1 bucket he did have was just spectacular. A reverse where he recovered kind of a crummy pass from Julius Randle, toasted Joe Ingles off the dribble, and then an up and under around Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez. He's had a lot of spectacular baskets this year in similar fashion. That might have been the best of the bunch. I wanted to shout out Obi Toppin. In his return from injury, hit a big 3-pointer. And it had a nice little ambitious attempt on Drew Holiday where he threw a cross on Holiday and stop, pop, push shot, rolled in and out. But I like the effort from Obi Toppin. That's again maybe the best defender in the league, and he was going at him. Deuce had 1 huge 3. Fournier had 1 huge 3, but again there were defensive issues there. Anyways, that is all I have for you guys. A great game, a painful game, but I don't know. My takeaway from watching and going back and looking at Prez's thread on the Knicks defense down the stretch is this was a great effort. This was a really, really good effort. And and I said it earlier, but I'll reiterate it. The margin for error for the Knicks, just because they don't have a Giannis, they don't have a Jason Tatum, they don't have a LeBron, they don't have a Luka. It's always going to be really hard for them to win these games against these teams, and give the Bucks credit on a night where they were really struggling offensively. They made big shot after big shot after big shot in a way that teams that have won titles just seem to have the confidence they can do, and that they can figure it out when they need to. And they did tonight against New York. And that's not really anything against the Knicks. But until next time, I'm Gavin Schall. We will be back possibly tomorrow with a little bonus episode action. I'm going to chop it up with Tony East of Locked On Pacers. So be on the lookout for that. But until then, be good. Talk to you soon on Locked On Knicks.